I cheated on my wife. Before you rush to judge me, let me tell you, this story's not as black and white as it seems. It's not just about getting even or some cheap revenge. Yeah, I did it because she did it first, but the mess I got tangled in turned out to be way more complicated than I ever imagined. What happened spiraled into something I'm still trying to climb out of, even though the damage has already been done. And yeah, I'm part of the mess. I'm not saying I'm blameless. But trust me, my wife isn't some innocent victim in this. Things played out in ways you probably wouldn't expect. If you're thinking this is going to be one of those neat, feel-good stories where I get back at her and everything's wrapped up in a bow, you're in for a rude awakening. It's way more chaotic than that. So, let me start at the beginning. I'm Ethan, just an average guy, mid-30s, boring office job, a couple of buddies I grab beers with every now and then, and up until recently, I was married. 7 years of marriage. It wasn't perfect by any means, but I thought it was something solid. You know, the kind of marriage where you ride out the bad times and hope for the best. Sure, we argued. A lot. Most of the time over dumb stuff, money, chores, you name it. But then there were the bigger fights, the ones that would leave us in silence for days. Still, I figured that was part of the deal. Couples fight, right? We'd eventually patch things up, or at least we pretended we did. Then we'd fall back into our routine, sweeping whatever was unresolved under the rug. Honestly, I convinced myself that despite the yelling, we were still in love. Because isn't love supposed to be hard sometimes? I chalked it up to us just going through a rough patch. That's what I kept telling myself. But here's the thing. I was blind to the reality staring me in the face. For a while now, there had been another presence in our home. My wife Samantha's best friend, Erica. I didn't think much of it at first. Erica would drop by all the time, no real reason needed. She'd come over for movie nights, dinners, or sometimes she'd just swing by because she was in the area. Sometimes it was planned, other times she'd just text Samantha, and next thing I knew, she was parked on the couch. It didn't seem strange. Honestly, Erica was around so often, she felt like part of the family. Samantha even gave her a key to the house for emergencies. Samantha would joke that Erica was like our adopted sister. I thought it was good for Samantha to have such a close friend, especially with all the crap we were going through. But looking back now, I can see how clueless I really was. I got too comfortable, maybe even a little naive. And then one day, everything shifted. It was a Tuesday, and I remember it clearly because Samantha was at work and I had the day off, a rare break from my usual grind. I planned for a lazy, no-stress day. Erica showed up like she normally did. No big deal. It wasn't out of the ordinary for her to hang out when Samantha wasn't around. We'd have coffee, chat about whatever came up, maybe put on a show to kill some time. Nothing about it seemed weird. By then, Erica and I had formed a casual friendship, and it was never anything unusual. But that day, something felt different. I didn't pick up on it right away, but after a few minutes, I noticed Erica wasn't her usual upbeat self. Normally, she was full of jokes and easy banter, but now, she seemed serious, almost like there was a weight hanging over her. I could feel it in the way she kept glancing at me, like she was building up to say something she really didn't want to. "Ethan," she finally said after a long silence, her voice calm, but carrying an edge I'd never heard before. "We need to talk." I laughed, thinking she was about to spill some workplace drama or complain about something trivial. "What's up?" I asked, but she didn't laugh with me. Instead, she looked me straight in the eye, her face dead serious, and hit me with the words that blew my life apart. "Samantha is cheating on you." For a moment, I just stared at her, like my brain couldn't process what she'd just said. It was like the words hung in the air, not making sense. I blinked to try to shake it off. "What are you even talking about?" Erica sighed, rubbing her hands together like she was bracing herself to drop a bomb. And well, she already had. "I've had my suspicions for a while now," she said, her voice low but steady. "Samantha has been going out, telling you she's with me, but she's not. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then I started noticing the patterns. She'd disappear, and then she'd tell you she was hanging out with me when she wasn't. She even asked me to cover for her a few times when you called. I didn't want to get in the middle of it, but, Ethan, you needed to know. That's when everything inside me just shattered. It felt like someone had taken a sledgehammer to the life I thought I had, breaking it into pieces right in front of me. I barely heard the rest of what Erica was saying. My mind checked out, too busy watching my world crumble in slow motion. Suddenly, everything made sense, but at the same time, I wanted it to be a lie. I wanted to believe Erica was wrong or stirring up drama for her own reasons. But deep down, I knew. You ever get that gut feeling where you just know something? Like all the little things you ignored suddenly line up, and the truth smacks you in the face? Yeah, that's what happened. I must have looked like I'd just seen a ghost because Erica reached over and placed her hand on mine. Her touch was firm, like she was trying to pull me back from the edge of whatever dark place I was spiraling into. "I'm really sorry, Ethan," she said softly, her voice now gentle, almost comforting. "I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but you needed to know the truth. I'll help you through this, I promise. You don't have to handle it all on your own." And that's where everything started to come apart. My marriage, my trust, my entire reality, everything I thought was stable in my life unraveled right then. I had no idea how deep I was about to fall or just how twisted things were going to get. I swear, what happened next wasn't planned. It wasn't supposed to go down that way. But when I saw Kyle stepping out of his car, something snapped inside me. All the pent-up frustration from weeks of sleepless nights, the constant paranoia, and the gut-wrenching uncertainty, it all exploded at once. My mind went blank, and my body took over, moving on pure instinct. Before I knew it, I was out of the car, charging across the street toward him like a man possessed. I wasn't thinking clearly. Hell, I wasn't thinking at all. Kyle didn't even see me coming. He was just going about his usual routine, probably thinking it was another quiet evening after work, heading into his comfortable little suburban life. Maybe he was even planning to text Samantha once he was inside. And the thought of that made my blood boil even more. I grabbed him by the collar of his jacket, yanking him around to face me. The look of sheer confusion and shock on his face, I'll never forget it. "Why, Kyle?" I snarled, my voice shaking with anger, barely able to form the words. "Why the hell would you do this to me?" My grip tightened as I shoved him hard against the brick wall of his house. His back hit with a dull thud, and I saw his eyes widen, not just in confusion, but in fear. I should have stopped then, but that look only fed the rage burning inside me. "You've been to my house. You know me. You know what kind of man I am." I was almost growling now. "How could you do this to me?" The truth is, I didn't even know what I was trying to say. I wasn't some violent guy, not the type to throw punches or make threats. But in that moment, I felt like I was capable of anything. The betrayal, the humiliation, it all came crashing down on me, and I felt like I had nothing left to lose. Kyle needed to feel just a fraction of what I was feeling. He needed to understand the hell he'd put me through. Kyle mumbled something, but his words were a blur. I didn't hear them. My heart was pounding in my ears, my focus so sharp that it drowned out everything else. Then, before I even realized what I was doing, my fist flew through the air, smashing straight into his face. The sound of it was sickening, a wet, cracking noise that made my whole body recoil. Kyle's head snapped to the side, and he stumbled, his legs giving out beneath him. He crumpled to the ground, clutching his cheek where I'd hit him, trying to steady himself on the sidewalk with his other hand. He looked up at me, blinking in shock, like he couldn't comprehend what had just happened. The guy I'd pictured as this cocky, arrogant bastard suddenly looked small, pathetic even. And for a second, that just made me feel worse. I stood there staring down at him, thinking maybe I'd feel some kind of relief. But there was nothing. No satisfaction, no closure, just emptiness. The anger hadn't gone away. It was still there, simmering beneath the surface, making my hands shake. My knuckles were split open from the impact, but I barely felt it. Cullen tried to get up. He didn't say a word. He just lay there, looking at me like a deer caught in headlights, his breaths coming in short, panicked gasps. And that's when it hit me. This guy, this pathetic excuse for a man, wasn't going to give me the answers I wanted. He didn't have them. He was just a coward, too weak to face the consequences of what he'd done. Without another word, I turned and walked back to my car. My whole body was trembling, adrenaline coursing through my veins like fire. I slammed the door shut behind me and gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. I didn't even glance back at Kyle. I didn't care. He was probably still lying there, trying to figure out what the hell had just happened. But I didn't give a damn anymore. As I sat there, the weight of what I'd just done started to settle in. I had no plan, no idea what the next step was. I couldn't go home. Not after everything that had happened. Not after what I'd just learned. The thought of walking through the front door and facing Samantha made me sick to my stomach. But I didn't know where else to go. I was completely lost. I had crossed the line, and there was no turning back now. The only thing I knew for sure was that I wanted real revenge. Punching Kyle in the face didn't even scratch the surface. It didn't make the pain go away. If anything, it only made things worse, because now I felt even more lost, like I was sinking deeper into this chaos with no way out. I didn't want to be the guy throwing punches out of blind rage. I wanted to make them both pay. I wanted them to feel the same kind of suffering they had put me through. I reached for my phone without thinking, my hand still shaking. Erica was the only person who popped into my mind. She picked up after just one ring, like she'd been expecting me to call. Her voice was steady and calm, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. "What happened?" Erica asked quietly, like she already knew I'd done something reckless. I went after him. I muttered, my own voice sounding foreign to me, distant, like it was coming from someone else. I hit him. I didn't know what else to do. There was a pause on her end, the kind of pause that feels like a lifetime. I could hear her breathing, thinking, calculating her next move. Then, in that unnervingly calm tone of hers, she said, "Come over. You need to clear your head. We'll sort this out. You don't have to go through this by yourself." That was all I needed to hear. I didn't argue, didn't question it. Hell, I didn't even stop to think. I just started driving. Home wasn't an option, just the idea of walking through that door, seeing Samantha, pretending like everything was okay. It made me sick to my stomach. So I went to Erica's because right then, she was the only one who seemed to get it. The only one who was on my side. What I didn't know back then, what I couldn't have seen coming, was just how much worse things were going to get. I thought I'd hit rock bottom, but I was only starting to fall. When I got to Erica's place, it felt like she'd been waiting for me all along. She didn't ask me anything, didn't need to. One look at my face, and she already knew what had gone down. There wasn't much to say anyway. I was a wreck, and it was written all over me. She just pulled me inside and handed me a glass of wine without a word. I didn't think twice, just took it. Anything to take the edge off, to quiet the storm inside my head. Erica poured herself a glass too, and for a while, we just sat there, drinking in silence. The wine helped dull the noise in my mind, but underneath it all, the anger, the confusion, the hurt, they were still bubbling just beneath the surface. We talked, sure, but it wasn't about anything that mattered. She asked about work, cracked some jokes about the old days, trying to pull me out of the darkness I was sinking into. It was a distraction, and I was grateful for it. Before I knew it, we drained the first bottle. Erica didn't even hesitate. She went straight to the kitchen and grabbed another. I didn't protest. It was easier to drown my thoughts than face them. By the time we started on the second bottle, I was feeling the haze setting in. The alcohol had loosened my tongue, and the sharp edges of reality began to blur. We kept talking, though I can't remember what about. It was like I was on autopilot, saying whatever came to mind just to keep from sinking further into the mess of my own thoughts. Then, out of nowhere, Erica's vibe changed. She wasn't just playing the comforting friend anymore. She leaned in closer, her eyes locking onto mine in a way that made me sit up. Her voice dropped lower, more serious. "Do you want revenge?" she asked, her words heavy, carrying more than just curiosity. I felt a rush of heat in my chest. "Of course I do," I said, not even hesitating. The words came out like I'd been waiting to say them all night. That's when she did something I didn't see coming. She took the wine glass from my hand and set it down, then climbed onto my lap in one smooth motion, her legs straddling me. My heart pounded in my chest, but my brain was too fogged by the alcohol to fully process what was happening. Her face was inches from mine, her breath warm against my skin as she whispered, "Let's get revenge together." I should have stopped it. I should have pushed her away, told her this wasn't right. But I didn't. The alcohol had dulled my better judgment, and the anger, the need to hurt Samantha as much as she'd hurt me, it was all too strong. So I let it happen. I kissed Erica back, pulling her closer, and before I knew it, we were a tangled mess on her couch, our limbs desperate and clumsy. But it wasn't what I thought it'd be. The sex was hurried, sloppy, and hollow. I was too drunk to care, too numb to feel anything real. Erica was eager, maybe a little too eager, like she had something to prove. But there was no fire, no real desire. This wasn't about passion. It was about control, about revenge, about reclaiming some part of ourselves that we felt had been stolen. In the middle of it, something caught my eye, her phone. She was holding it up, the screen glowing in the dim light of the room. She was taking pictures. It didn't click right away, but then I saw the flash, saw her snap another shot, and my mind jolted back to reality. "What the hell are you doing?" I slurred, the words stumbling out of my mouth, my voice thick from the alcohol, but clear enough to show my discomfort. Erica just smiled like it was nothing. "Relax," she said, snapping another picture. "It's just for fun. I'll delete them later." "No," I muttered, trying to grab her phone, but my movements were slow, clumsy. "I don't want any pictures. This is too much." She just laughed, brushing me off like I was overreacting. "Don't worry," she said, her tone light, almost mocking. "I'll take care of it. Trust me." But I didn't trust her. Not anymore. I didn't push the issue with Erica, though I probably should have. I let her keep those pictures because, honestly, I didn't have the energy left to argue. All I wanted was for the night to be over. Everything felt wrong. It was like I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross, but I was in too deep to stop now. I didn't stay the night at Erica's. I couldn't. After what had happened, I felt disgusted with myself, sick to my core. I crashed on her couch for a couple of hours, but eventually I got up and left, barely saying a word. There was no way I could go home. Not after what I'd just done. Not after the chaos I'd stirred up. Instead, I drove around aimlessly for what felt like hours, trying to make sense of it all. But no matter where I went, the guilt clung to me, heavy and suffocating. When I finally checked my phone, it was lit up with missed calls from Samantha. 7, maybe 8, I didn't bother counting. I couldn't bring myself to call her back. What was I supposed to say? The guilt was eating me alive, but at the same time, I was still boiling with anger. Samantha had betrayed me first, hadn't she? So why was I the one feeling like the villain? Still, something wasn't sitting right with me. I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling about Erica. The way she had taken those pictures, how she insisted on keeping them, it felt off. I should have stopped her, but now it was too late. The next day was worse than I could have imagined. I thought that night with Erica was rock bottom, but it turned out things were just getting started. The fallout from her actions was coming, and I had no idea just how bad it was going to be. I got home much later than I should have, dragging my feet, trying to delay the inevitable. I ran through a dozen scenarios in my head, trying to figure out what to say when I walked through the door. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened when I finally did. I barely had time to shut the door behind me when Samantha came storming out of the living room, her face flushed with rage. Before I could even open my mouth, she slapped me, hard enough that my ears rang. "What the hell, Samantha?" I yelled, rubbing my cheek, still stunned by the hit. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she threw her phone at me, nearly hitting me square in the chest. "Look at it," she screamed, her voice shaking with fury. I fumbled with her phone, confused, until I saw the screen. And then it hit me like a freight train. There staring back at me was a picture. Not just any picture. The picture. It was me and Erica, tangled up in bed, exposed in the worst possible way. My stomach twisted as I stared at it, a wave of dread crashing over me. "Explain that?" Samantha spat, her voice raw with anger and hurt. "How could you do this? With her?" My heart pounded, but anger started to rise in me too. "You want to talk about betrayal?" I shouted back. "You cheated on me first. With Kyle. You think I don't know? Erica told me everything. This is all because of you." Samantha's face changed from fury to pure shock. "What the hell are you talking about? Kyle? Have you lost your damn mind? I never cheated on you. Not with him. Not with anyone." I laughed bitterly, pacing in frustration. "Bullshit, Samantha. Erica told me everything. She told me you've been sneaking around, using her as a cover." "She lied, Ethan." Samantha screamed, tears welling up in her eyes now. "I never slept with anyone. I never cheated on you. Why the hell would you believe her over me?" At this point, we were both screaming, dragging up every old wound and grievance from the past. She called me a liar, a coward, and a cheat. I called her a manipulator, a deceiver, a traitor. We were tearing each other apart. But beneath all the yelling, something nagged at me, a seed of doubt I couldn't ignore anymore. "What about all those times you said you were with Erica?" I shouted, desperate to hold on to the narrative that had driven everything. "She told me you weren't. She said you were with someone else." Samantha threw her hands up, exasperated, tears streaming down her face. "I was at work, Ethan, running errands, taking care of things. I wasn't cheating on you. Why didn't you ever ask me?" The rage in me started to falter as doubt crept in. Her voice, her pain, it felt real. I stared at her, my mind racing as the pieces began to fall into place. "Erica," I muttered under my breath, more to myself than to Samantha. "She set this all up. She played both of us." Samantha blinked, her expression shifting from anger to a cold realization. "Yeah, I think she did. She's been stirring the pot for months, hasn't she? Getting in your head, making you doubt everything. How the hell did we not see it?" I sank onto the couch, my head in my hands. The weight of everything hit me all at once. What I'd done, what Erica had done. She had manipulated me, twisted everything, and I'd fallen for it. I had wrecked my own marriage because of her. Samantha didn't sit down, but she wasn't yelling anymore. Her voice was softer now, though still bitter. "Ethan, even if Erica set us up, even if she lied, our marriage is ruined. I don't see how we come back from this." I looked up at her, feeling the full weight of her words. She was right. We had ripped each other apart, and there was nothing left to salvage. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my throat tight with regret. I didn't know what else to do. "I thought." "You didn't think, Ethan. You let her get into your head. You let her tear us apart." We sat there in silence, the air so thick with tension that it felt like we were drowning in it. Minutes dragged on, and then Samantha finally broke the quiet. "I'm calling her," she said, already pulling out her phone. "I want to hear what she has to say." I watched her fingers tremble as she dialed Erica's number. It didn't take long before Erica answered, her voice annoyingly casual, almost smug. "Samantha, hey," Erica said, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. "I've been meaning to reach out." "Yeah, I'm sure you have," Samantha replied coldly. "We need to meet, just the two of us, somewhere quiet." There was a brief pause on Erica's end, but then she agreed. "Fine, but not at your place. We'll meet somewhere neutral. I'll come alone." Samantha hung up, keeping her eyes locked on mine. "I'm going to meet her. I need to hear it from her directly. But I don't trust her, Ethan. I want you to come with me. Just don't let her see you. Stay hidden, listen in. I need to know what she says when she thinks you're not around." I nodded, knowing that this confrontation was inevitable. I needed to hear the truth from Erica's mouth too. But deep down, I already knew nothing she said would fix what was broken. Samantha was right. Our marriage had hit a wall, and there was no turning back. "We'll meet her," I said, getting up and grabbing my jacket. But you're right. There's no saving this marriage. Samantha didn't say a word. She just grabbed her keys, and we headed out, both of us bracing for whatever was about to unfold. We met Erica at a rundown cafe on the outskirts of town. It was the kind of place where no one cared enough to notice anything, let alone a tense confrontation. Samantha wanted somewhere neutral, a space that didn't carry the weight of everything we'd built and lost. Erica arrived a few minutes later, wearing that same infuriatingly calm, confident expression, like she already knew how this was going to play out. Samantha didn't waste any time. The moment Erica sat down, she went straight for the throat. "I know what you've been doing," Samantha said, her voice sharp, wavering between rage and disbelief. "You've been stirring shit between me and Ethan. Why? What the hell is wrong with you?" Erica barely flinched. She leaned back in her chair and gave Samantha a bitter smile. "I didn't need to ruin anything, Samantha. You did that all on your own." From my hiding spot behind a parked car, I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. This was it, the moment of truth. "What the hell are you talking about?" Samantha snapped, her voice breaking. "I never did anything to you, Erica. We've been friends for years. Why would you do this?" Erica let out a dry, mocking laugh. "Friends? Please. I've been your little psychic, Samantha. Always in your shadow, watching while you had it all. Career, home, a husband who treated you like a queen. And me? I got to stand by and watch while you took everything for granted." Samantha's eyes widened in shock, speechless for a moment. "Are you seriously jealous? Is that what this is about?" Erica's eyes darkened, a twisted glint appearing in them. "Jealous? You have no idea what it's like to always be second place, watching someone who doesn't even realize how good they've got it. Maybe I wanted a piece of that for myself. You've cheated on everything, Samantha. Your friendships, your job, your husband. I never cheated on Ethan," Samantha shouted, jumping up from her seat, her fists clenched at her sides. "You're full of shit, Erica. I never did anything to you, and I damn sure never cheated." But Erica only smirked, leaning in closer. "It doesn't matter what you did or didn't do. What matters is that I could see everything falling apart, and I barely had to lift a finger to push it over the edge. You always had your perfect little life, and I thought, why not take some of it away from you?" Samantha's face fell, the realization hitting her like a punch to the gut. The betrayal wasn't just about me. Erica had been slowly driving a wedge between us, cutting Samantha down at every opportunity. Samantha had leaned on her, trusted her, and now everything was unraveling. She stepped back, her hands trembling. I can't believe this," Samantha whispered, her voice breaking. "We've been friends for so long, Erica. How could you do this to me?" I couldn't stand it anymore. I stepped out from behind the car, making my presence known. Erica's eyes flickered with something. Fear, guilt, maybe even a hint of satisfaction. But she didn't say a word. She just stood up, turned her back on us, and walked away, her footsteps quick and purposeful, like she'd done exactly what she came to do. I didn't go after her. There was no point. She had succeeded in tearing us apart, and there was nothing left to fight for. I turned to Samantha, my heart still pounding. "Samantha, don't even bother, Ethan." She cut me off, her eyes blazing with anger and pain. "Go to hell." Her voice was cold, so cold that it left no room for argument. That was it. The end. She turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, all alone in the wreckage of what used to be our life. And in that quiet, empty space, I knew it was over. There was no fixing this. Our marriage was beyond repair. Samantha had her part in it. I had mine, and Erica had been the puppet master behind it all. The realization hit me hard. I let myself get played, fooled by the one person I thought I could trust. Erica had manipulated me, and in the process, everything had fallen apart. I felt like an absolute idiot. But as Samantha disappeared into the distance, one thought kept hammering in my mind. I might have lost my marriage, but I wasn't about to let Erica get away with it. She had played her games, messed with my life, and torn apart everything I cared about. She wasn't going to walk away from this without facing consequences. Without even thinking, I drove straight to Erica's place. I didn't plan it. I just knew what I had to do. When I got there, she hesitated at the door, clearly sensing something was off. But I didn't let that stop me. I put on the face of a man who had been shattered by Samantha, pretending to be broken and desperate. I told her I'd been in love with her for a while, and that everything with Samantha made me realize what I really wanted. Erica was good at playing people, but so was I. I watched her eyes soften, her smile grow, as she started to believe every lie I fed her. It didn't take much for her to let me in. We spent hours talking, pretending as if the chaos between us didn't even exist. I swallowed all my rage, all my disgust, and let her think she had me wrapped around her finger. When she finally went to take a shower, I knew it was time. I'd watched her unlock her phone earlier, memorizing the password. The second she was in the bathroom, I grabbed her phone from the table. My hands were shaking, but I moved fast. I unlocked it and went straight to the gallery. And there was all the dirt I needed. Pictures, videos, everything. I started transferring them to my phone as quickly as I could. I didn't even look at them, just grabbed everything I could before she came back. In a few minutes, it was done. I put her phone back exactly where it was, slipped out of the house, and drove off without saying a word. She had no idea what just happened, and I didn't care. I had what I needed, and now it was my turn to play. A few blocks away, I parked the car and started scrolling through the photos I'd taken from her phone. There was more than I expected. Dozens of explicit pictures, some just for her, others she had probably sent to God knows who. But it didn't matter. What mattered was that I had them, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with them. Within 20 minutes, they were all over the internet. I set up anonymous accounts, spreading her private photos on every platform I could think of. I sent them to her coworkers, her friends, her family, every circle she belonged to. I made sure they saw the worst of it. I didn't care if it was illegal. I knew she could come after me, sue me, press charges, whatever. None of that mattered anymore. The only thing that mattered was making sure she felt the pain she had caused me. Erica had torn my life apart, and now I was tearing hers apart. Once it was done, once I had sent the last photo and watched the fallout begin, I sat back in my car, my heart still racing, but for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to relief. Maybe it was twisted, maybe it was wrong, but I didn't care. I had gotten my revenge. That was all that mattered. There was still the divorce to deal with. Samantha and I were finished, and there would be lawyers, settlements, and all the nasty details to sort out. But for now, I had done what I needed to do. Erica wasn't going to walk away from this without scars. Whether she recovered or not, I didn't care. I was satisfied. And now, after putting this all into words, I feel a little lighter. I'm not looking for forgiveness, and I don't expect anyone to understand. I just needed to get it off my chest. Thanks for listening.